What up? 大家好，我是唢呐。I want to give a huge shout out to those of you who engaged in the comments of our previous episode.
The audacity, the balls.
And much to our surprise, there were several feminists who not only engaged but donated to us. And one special person sent us a fat stack directly to our account.
Fat stacks, cash money.
So, on today's episode, we're going to talk about women and what some people think a woman is. But before we start, fun fact. Awid and I both have family and close friends who are members of the LGBTQ+ community. As a DJ, I spent years engaging with members of LGBTQ+, and real talk, the LGBTQ+ community is the only group of people who have never made fun of my skin color, discriminated against me, or even tried to 交黑人朋友.
What's up, my name?
Maybe because they have been disenfranchised and they know exactly what it's like to be treated like shit. But in spite of that, the LGBTQ+ community are some of the most kind, hardworking, and sincere people who just want to be treated with the same respect as everyone else in society. And I encourage our viewers to engage and try to understand their community more. And I also can tell you that most of them are not down with this woke extreme PC bullshit.
Shut up. Shut up!
So, as we move on to this episode, it's going to be broken down into 3 parts just for you. And hopefully, YouTube won't suppress any more of our videos or delete our channels. So after a little YouTube ass licking, let's see how long this video stays live, and for how long the river of blood can continue to flow. So, a few months ago in Ontario, Canada, a high school shop teacher who identified as male until recently showed up after summer vacation sporting anime-sized titties and a tight sweater and a short skirt.
Damn!
The students, teachers, and faculty did not know how to respond.
No normal person in their right mind would dress up like that and go teach kids. Come on.
I think he's go a little bit too further. Just identify himself is okay, whatever, I'm okay with it. But just wearing that in the classroom, I still have a little bit concern of that.
I think it is fundamentally wrong that an individual is able to work at an institution as such with such a huge fake bust on. It's gross.
Because if they even dared to criticize the teacher, they'd risk being labeled as transphobic. Because in Ontario, that shit is technically against the law. Yo, we at Halgisa support anyone to live how they please as long as it doesn't infringe on others' rights or force others to participate in it. This shit is not woke. This is straight sleepwalking, yo. Shit. This fake woke culture not only forces others to agree and participate, but it even steals the identities of others. And the number one victims of this theft are women. A few weeks ago, American cosmetics company Ulta Beauty released this video.
Mr. Hollywood, I'm right here.
Hollywood, zoom in on that.
Needless to say, people lost their shit. Dylan Mulvaney, one of America's biggest trans TikTokers, along with a grown, bearded, gender-fluid person, although neither one of them has had bottom surgery, filmed a 1-hour podcast discussing dressed in women's clothing, shaking her chest like Marilyn Monroe, Dylan discusses her experiences as a girl.
What?
American woke culture at its finest. Talk about the patriarchy. The very essence of women is being stolen by men, yo. And if you haven't watched it yet, check out Matt Walsh's What is a Woman?
Male gametes. That's what makes me male.
No, your sperm don't make you male.
Then what does?
It's a constellation.
A constellation? Word, Wookie? That means that we had it all wrong. This is not a gender war. This is Star Wars. Now, gender dysphoria is real, and there are people all over the world who suffer from it. We at Halgisa support any full-grown adult who wants to take steps to transition into the gender that suits them. But there must be a line drawn at displaying traditionally masculine behavior, behaving in a manner that most cisgender women cannot, and then staking claim on femininity. This sort of identity theft could cause serious cognitive dissonance in modern society. And of course, the wokists will push back, claiming we must break gender stereotypes. Women come in all different forms. Well, in that case, I'm claiming gender dysphoria, yo. Or maybe I'm T, or maybe I'm trans, or maybe I'm gender fluid. In which case, I'm gonna be a lesbian who dresses in men's clothes, has a girlfriend, and insists on going to the spa and showering with the women. Because women come in all forms, yo.
Fuck you.
Now this actually happen.
It's okay for a man to go into the women's section, show his penis around the other women, young little girls underage. Your spa condone that. Is that what you're saying? He could stay there? What sexual orientation? I see a dick.
And the person who did it had a S-offender rap sheet longer than our comment section. And also a big congratulations to all our Taiwanese viewers. In addition to Article 19 of Taiwan's Gender Equality Education Act, removing gender stereotypes, Taiwan is also pushing legislation allowing your gender to be changed on your ID without the need of surgery. Because like Simone said, one is not born, but rather becomes a woman. All of this, coupled with the Simone de Beauvoir feminism taught in schools, sends that feminist boomerang smacking women right in the face.
Checkmate.
So woke culture is in Taiwanese campuses and it's in the legislation.
You better be careful.
And if you think that's bad, this is only the beginning. You remember a few episodes back when we caught shit from everyone by stating that men should protect women? The comments roasted us bad, yo, saying that we discriminate against women and that we're misogynists, inferring that men are better than women and that testosterone doesn't matter. Word? Okay, Wokey, if women and men are biologically and physiologically the same, then we should all play sports together, right? Here comes that feminist boomerang, about to smack women in the back of the head once again. Leah Thomas, a trans woman swimmer who broke nearly all the women's swimming records, caused many of the women on her team to not even qualify for competition and get pushed out. But none of them would dare speak out for fear of the woke repercussions. Well, our good friend Peter Boghossian visited the prestigious UC Berkeley to hear what naturally born women thought about this topic. And I gotta warn you, this is gonna be a long one with a lot of trigger points. So anchor yourselves in and prepare.
Trans women should be able to compete in women's sports. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move. Okay, we've got one disagree, one strongly agree. You're on the line. Okay, tell us why you agree.
I agree because trans women should be able to compete in women's sports because they are competing underneath their identity that they very solidly align with, and to deprive them of that is to kind of say that their identity is not acceptable in society.
I believe trans women should be able to compete in sports because there's specific criterion that trans women have to meet in order to be able to compete under the woman category.
In which sports?
I do know for at least the Olympics there are requirements for trans women because when trans women go on hormones, testosterone drops in them. So a lot of the natural advantages they might have being born in a man's body are depleted. So they have to be below a certain testosterone level. They have to be on estrogen for a certain amount of time. And even the rule where you have to be below a certain testosterone percentages have stopped cis women from competing in sports.
Let's fact check that. In 2015, the International Olympic Committee ruled that in order to compete in the Olympics, a woman must have a testosterone level below 10 nanomoles per liter for 1 year prior to competing. In 2019, the World Athletics Commission lowered that requirement to 5 nanomoles per liter. Now, although testosterone blocking therapy is effective, studies show that even after 3 years of continuous therapy, a trans woman's strength, lean body mass, and muscle density are all still significantly greater than that of a naturally born woman. Now in this first clip, the girl in blue who disagrees is about to make her first attack against Peter's knowledge on gender identity terms. And her reaction is just the first of many to come.
Cis woman meaning what?
Cis woman. Women who are born as women. Cisgendered is when you're born in the correct sex. So like, I was born a woman, I identify as a woman still, I'm cis. If I were to identify as non-binary or anything else, I would not be cis. How are you gonna ask this question and not know what cis means?
Well, cis isn't in the question, and what cis might mean to you, that doesn't mean that people watching this are gonna know what cis means.
Things are a definition. Things mean things. Cisgender means one thing. That's just
Is it possible that some people could perceive the word women to be different?
Well, I'm not talking about women, I'm talking about the term cisgender.
Yeah, so I think it's important that we define our terms. That's why I meant.
Yeah.
Do you think it's unfair for me to ask you to define it?
No, it sounded like you didn't know what cisgender was, and I was just wondering if you didn't know that was, why you thought you should ask that question.
Wait a minute. I thought the point of asking questions was to better understand something, thus admitting that there are things that you don't know. But it seems like Homegirl is claiming that if you don't know, then you don't have the right to ask.
That don't make no sense.
So in this next bit, the group gets into a discussion about the similarities or differences between the high levels of testosterone from trans women and performance-enhancing drugs.
Performance-enhancing drugs are obviously banned. It's because they enhance your performance. However, if you have enough money, you can pay a coach to help advance your performance. You know what I mean? Like, there's specific training facilities, there's specific programs that all cost money to access. And by accessing those with money, you also gain an advantage.
I think the comparison between wealth or someone or the advantages that they have are completely different than like people getting things like hormones and stuff like genetically in them versus like being able to pay for a facility or something.
How does it make you feel if you compete against, for example, in lacrosse?
I would think it'd be unfair, especially if that male came from playing men's lacrosse.
What's wrong with it being unfair? Life is unfair. Some people are born with, like, no legs.
I mean, that's true that life is unfair, but it's like, it's the sport of lacrosse, specifically what I'm talking about, where there's the men's and the women's, and a lot of sports are very different, men and women-wise. And obviously, it's not always fair, but it's as fair when it's all women versus, like, the other side being all men versus all men, all women versus all women.
In response to that, if a girl went to a middle or high school where they didn't have a big sports fund and she played on the male lacrosse team and then transferred to a school that had a girls and boys lacrosse team and then she chose to play on the girls team after playing on the boys team, no one would care. No one would care because she's cis. They only care because she's trans. No one really cares about you playing the man version of a sport if you're a girl and then you play the woman version later. They only care when you're trans.
If that were to be the case where I played a male sport and then went to a female sport, I did not pump hormones in my body to genetically get me to a better place than playing with males.
So what do you guys think? Does the girl in blue have a point with her logic? Or does the blonde on the right, who is speaking from actual lived experiences as a lacrosse player, have a point? Leave a comment down below. And as you can see, there's another person who's joined the game, without permission by the way, and things are about to get very interesting.
Hi, you do know that's what birth control is for, right? To pump estrogen.
But a lot of cis women are.
To pump estrogen into your body so that you're actually physically able to do things. And putting natural hormones in your body, I hope you know that you as a cis woman also has testosterone in your body as well as estrogen and progesterone.
How do you know she's a cis woman?
Are you a cis woman? Okay.
I didn't know that.
I did, I can tell.
You have like a gaydar for cis women.
I do, because I'm not a cis woman, and I know what cis women look like and act like.
Wow, you can tell someone's gender identity just by looking at them? Wait, what happened to respecting people by asking their pronouns? What happened to you not assuming and judging someone based on their appearance? Isn't that like PC culture 101?
I'm just like extremely hypocritical in that way.
So this next bit is about to get dicey, as Peter presses them to define certain terms for clarity of the group and the people watching. We all know what happens when you ask questions.
And am I a cis woman?
You're not a cis woman, but if you're a woman, that's okay.
No, I'm a man.
Okay, hello. What are your pronouns?
I need time to think.
All right, no problem. That is the entire purpose of competitive sports. And you just trying to justify your transphobia with the fact of being genetically better.
What does that word mean?
What do you mean, what does that word mean?
Well, if I say to you, what is this? And she says a blah, 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 and I say, what do you mean? They give me the definition. So, like, what is the definition of transphobia?
Transphobia is when you exclude trans people. Transphobia is when you do not believe that trans people are really the identity they identify with. Transphobia is hatred towards trans people. That's what transphobia is. And thinking that trans athletes should not compete with regular athletes in their own separately, it's transphobic.
Okay, so do you need all three of those criteria to be met?
No, you don't. No,
you need one.
Yes.
So if I believe that a person who was born a man who has not had bottom surgery, who should not go into a women's prison, am I a transphobe?
That is a completely different question, and I don't even know your reason.
But it's excluding, though.
But I don't even know your reason for that.
So I'm trying to figure out what the word transphobe means.
By asking me a completely hypothetical question when I
by asking you, well, you gave me a definition, but it meets the first one, so that would seem under your definition as transphobic.
Hold on, this pisses me off. We're not using a Google definition. Hold on, we're not using a Google definition to describe transphobia, because this is exactly like when you say white people can't be racist, and they pull the definition of racism, and they're like, oh no, but here it says racism is blah 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 blah. Google definition can literally not define something that you literally have spent years studying.
Not only have I studied it, I've outpublished virtually everybody in my field in a 10-month period.
When I called you a transphobe, I meant it. And the reason I'm saying that is because there's an underlying bias towards trans people that you really need to work on. And I'm not saying...
What is that?
What is an underlying bias?
Yeah, what do you mean by that?
I mean exactly what I said, that she has an underlying bias. It's not very difficult to understand.
Okay, pretend I'm stupid. What does it mean? When someone says they have an underlying bias, that could mean a subconscious bias. It could mean that they don't act out. Like, what does that mean?
Okay, I thought I was supposed to pretend that you're stupid. Okay, here we go.
In other words, explain it in a way that is crystal clear so that anybody watching this will understand. Because we have people watching this of all ages, all everything, who are trying to figure this out for themselves.
Jesus. So the girls on the right are transphobic and have underlying bias just because they have a different point of view? These tactics remind me of what the late Kevin Samuels aptly named sign language. Shame, insult, guilt, and the need to be right. The person on the left has already shamed the girls on the right by calling them transphobic, and then she guilted them by telling them they need to work on their underlying bias. And then the girl in blue insists on her point by denying the validity of Google definitions to support her need to be right. Well, the only thing we're missing now is an insult. 让我们继续看下去.
Let me ask you a question. Are you convinced that her definition of transphobia is...
Like if her definition of transphobia is correct?
No, it can be anything anybody wants it to be. It can be a pastrami sandwich if someone wants it to be.
Pastrami sandwich, if someone wanted it to be?
Anybody can define anything the way they want to define it.
No.
They can't define anything they want
You can't define it as a pastrami sandwich. That's a joke. Like, that's literally a joke. That's not how words work. Words have meaning.
But she tried to look it up in Google, and you told her that wasn't how to adjudicate the meanings of words.
My point in that was that Google definitions cannot adequately describe and explain such a nuanced topic. I didn't say it can't be defined. I just said that Google definitions wasn't going to have a...
Who does give the right definition then? Which definition is correct? How can we...
Hold on. And I don't think there's ever the most concrete definitions when it comes to nuanced topics. However, you can't just be defining words however you want. And you know that for a fact. Colloquially, things mean things. And colloquially, we all know what that shit means. You cannot describe it as a pastrami sandwich. There's very clear parameters that you can work within. You may disagree on specific nuances, but the overall, like, you can't just describe anything as anything. Words have meaning for a reason.
Like man and woman.
Yeah, trans women are women. Like, I don't... See, you keep trying to get people like, caught up. What is your point? Like, what is your point? Like, this is kind of a joke.
I know your point. You just want to try to catch us in a contradiction, and you have literally no reason to be doing this whatsoever. Yeah, you're trying to prove a gotcha. Ooh, you have no idea what you're talking about, silly liberals and your silly trans people, instead of just not being.
Wow, that pastrami sandwich bit really set things off. Who knew meat could make women so mad? The girl at the end of the line on the left can barely even get a word in. And if you notice, their what's the point argument is very similar to the social workers' response in our previous video when they came down to engage with Peter Boghossian. But this time, the girls on the right choose to respond.
I know you guys are like, what's the point of it? My point for coming over here and participating in this is because I'm very open-minded and I like hearing other people's points of views, and I'm not very... I don't just shut people down when they have an opinion and start calling them names. I'm not here to promote transphobia at all. That does not say, are you transphobic or not? In no way am I transphobic. I'm just stating my opinion, trying to have an equally conversation of a debate where we can just say how we feel and move on with our lives. I don't think anyone should be attacking anyone.
Did you agree with what she said?
Oh, absolutely. People's emotions get really heightened during topics like this.
Just because emotions are heightened doesn't mean points shouldn't be listened to, because I see both of you. None of you are listening to our points. You're turning to each other, you're whispering, you're laughing, and I see both of you. Don't make that face, because I literally see what you're doing. I'm not an idiot. And second of all, I can probably just describe transphobia because...
Do you not agree with her definition?
Oh, I completely agree. I'm just adding to it. So transphobia is systemic. There is a system set in place to put trans people down, to kill them, to put them in prison, and to completely eradicate them. And in your disagreement with trans women not being able to compete in women's sports is boosting that systemic idealism. And when I say that you're a transphobe, that's something in yourself that you do need to work on, because that
Can you define that? Can you define that?
What, underlying?
No, that I got from what you said. I thought your explanation was excellent. A transphobe, because I got her definition. What's yours?
Transphobe is what I said. So transphobe is someone that is adding to a system to put other trans individuals down, whether it be conscious or unconscious. There's some sort of bias that you definitely do need to work through and actually listen to something we're saying. It doesn't matter if we're getting heightened in emotion because we're passionate about something. That should make you want to listen more, and it shouldn't make you want to smirk and act like, oh my goodness, you contradicted yourself, la 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 la.
So, just like in the Yale video where the professor was told not to smile, the girls on the right are being attacked for whispering and laughing. It's as if you can't show any sign of happiness when engaged in a discussion of differing opinion with these people. Now in the next clip, remember that I and sign language that is yet to be fulfilled? As two people on the left come from Peter Boghossian directly.
Why do you think you should be the one to facilitate this conversation when you don't even care about sports?
Correct. I don't care about any sports with a ball.
Do you care about trans women?
What do you mean?
Do you care about trans women and trans women issues? And
Like, give me what do you mean?
And protecting trans women. What do you mean? What do I mean? It's a straightforward question.
That's actually not a straightforward question.
Do you care about trans women? Do you care about the issues they face? Do you care about being a good ally to trans women? Do you care about trans women?
I was up with you until you used the word ally. So the answer to the first question is yes. And the answer to the second question, it depends what you mean.
It depends on what I mean by ally.
Yes.
What do you think ally means?
Often we use words that we think we know what other people mean.
I know what the word ally means. Allies, an easy word to understand.
At your biblical age, are you
55.
Biblical. Are you telling me?
What do you mean biblical?
It means you're older than the Bible. Do you really not know what ally means?
Not that old.
Do you really not know what ally means?
It depends what you mean. If you mean, different people mean different things by ally.
Then come back to me.
Like, does it mean somebody willing to?
Yeah. I'm asking you, what do you think? Like, what's your definition of ally?
I'm more than happy to, yes, I will answer that question. We'll go back to the claim. You have my word. I will answer that question. So I'm just going to wrap up. You have my word. So you guys, there's nothing to get you to change your mind, and absolutely nothing. I want to make sure clear.
So he's old and doesn't know what ally means, which makes him unqualified to hold the discussion. In case some of you don't understand what's going on here, Peter is holding off on giving input to their questions because he is trying to remain as neutral as possible without having his point of view influence the other participants. Now in the final clip, the contradictions become even bolder as the ones on the left show more outrage, and eventually the session gets shut down.
Is there anything that would get you two to move to the slightly, either to the strongly disagree or to the slightly disagree? Like, is there any piece of evidence that you would have to hear or reason or argument?
I think I would definitely be open to changing my opinion or even just hearing other people out.
That I think for a trans woman to compete in women's sports, she has a biological advantage. And then for a trans man to compete in men's sports, she has a biological disadvantage. So I just want to make that point that I do think that's something to consider. And I don't agree with attacking people personally, whether it's that he's old or that I'm sitting here smiling. I don't think that anything to do with this conversation has to do with how you treat other people. And if you're going to sit here and say you accept all people, then you need to sit here and accept all people.
I don't accept bigots. I don't accept racists.
Old people.
Yeah, old people like you because you're an ass. I accept older people who are open-minded, like my parents, per se, who are actually older than you. And I accept people who are willing to actually open their minds up.
You're accepting of people who are willing to open their minds, but yet you are not willing to open your mind for evidence that would take you to go to the agree line.
I'm not willing to open my mind to be a bigoted piece of shit, no.
A trans woman should not be able to compete in women's sports, has transphobic beliefs. Point blank, period. Trans women are women. Therefore, they compete in women's sports. Like, that's really just like the end of conversation. Like, there's really no like, oh, but like, you know, like the boys and then the girls and the testosterone. No, like it's all based in transphobia. So it's not about like me believing in facts. It's not about me listening to the research. It's literally just called like I'm saying this line because I refuse to be transphobic. Go answer the question. I'm next.
Oh, we are?
That's so convenient.
It is. Well, talk to your school. They're making us leave. Talk to her right there.
I actually don't want this to come back. So
okay.
I will not be speaking.
All right.
God damn. Now, we had to edit this heavily, but I highly recommend you check out the entire video in the description down below. What you just saw was cognitive dissonance in real time. The two people on the left were fighting to preserve their reality. Real talk. Sometimes just engaging in civil discourse can go sideways, especially when ideals are called into question.
This whole thing is bullshit. It's all made up. All of it. All of it.
The rise of woke culture has not only resulted in the appropriation of women's identity, but now even institutions are attempting to implement it. The National Education Association, the largest labor union in the entire United States, recently proposed the removal of the word mother in favor of the term birthing parent in their yearly agenda. Their logic, and I quote, "Using this contract language, members need not worry about a board of education or solicitor that defines maternity leave, mother and or father. The language is an inclusive reflection of how LGBTQIA+ members build families."
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
So, anyone out there who sees a woman carrying a child in her belly, if you assume that she is a mother, you are enforcing the patriarchy. Women don't have to be mothers. Stop this systemic oppression now.
You. Fuck you.
Well, a big congratulations to all the ladies who subscribe to Beauvoir branded low morale feminism. Your mission of destroying the concept of motherhood has been accomplished. Ironically, this brand of feminism has now labeled women as reproductive machines under the term birthing person, which completely removes women from the equation and was created by a group of men. And just when you thought woke culture might die down, capitalism enters the chat, stealing the female identity, destroying maternal roles, allowing them to decide the future of the modern world, starting with the children.
I wish somebody hugged me a few years back and be like, you know what, you can present feminine, you can wear heels, hair, whatever you want, but the sad reality, we don't have technology to make you an actual woman. But they kind of like didn't protect me from myself.
And when you link this with extreme feminism,
the terror that if you touch in the wrong place at the wrong time, you may find that your whole life is destroyed.
See, I
and there
like
is
that
far
terror.
too much. Well,
I like that.
As a
I
mother
think
of
that
a
men
teenage
should be
boy, I
frightened.
don't.
and Black Lives Matter,
My kids have to see you guys celebrate a man's life that tried to kill him.
this shit all comes together to create the very lucrative woke industrial complex. So in our next episode, we'll introduce the monsters who created the woke industrial complex by splicing woke culture and capitalism together. Hold on to your butts, things are about to get even more dicey as we enter the final few episodes in this series. So remember to like, comment, subscribe. We will see you on the flip side. Peace!